Okay, let's turn to a year ago. I'm looking forward to Monday. I'm looking back to a year ago in China. There was the first coronavirus lockdown imposed in the city of Wuhan and also the surrounding province. So there was 11 million people put under quarantine. I suppose we were all watching it and perhaps clueless, perhaps might be the word, of how it might affect us in the future. I want to bring in the BBC's China analyst, Kerry Allen. Kerry, great to have you back with us. So we're beginning to see, even though China, many said, did such a great job clamping down on the virus, that there is now some resurgence of cases in certain parts of this huge country. Tell us what we know.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of concern at the moment because for a number of days now, I'd say just over a week, there have been more than 100 local domestically transmitted cases within China. And these span a number of areas. I mean, today's stats, for example, they span 6 areas, all in the east or the northeast of the country, places where it's around 0 degrees Celsius, so very cold places. And 2 of these areas are major cities. So there have been 6 cases in Shanghai in the last 24 hours and 3 cases in Beijing. And Beijing, the capital, which has millions of people living there, actually a district of this has gone into lockdown in the last 48 hours. So people in this region, and lockdown in China is very, very strict lockdown. So people there can't leave their apartments whatsoever. They can't go and get food. What normally happens is that volunteers are brought in to bring food to people's apartments. So very, very tight lockdown in this area of Beijing in the south, an area called Daxing district.
I just can't imagine what it must be like for them after going through it for so long, and I suppose so many hopeful points throughout the year as well. How do you think people are reacting to these outbreaks, and is there also any intelligence on why it continues?
I think there is still a lot of concern. In fact, just before I spoke to you, I had a message from a friend in Shanghai, and she said she'd learnt of these new cases there, and she said, God, it's all moved up a gear again. Everything's really quite scary here. And this is only for 6 local cases. So China does take this very, very seriously with very, very few cases. At the same time, there are a lot of people who think because China has been so strict with its lockdown measures, and what's happened is normally if symptomatic cases are detected, even if it's only 1, there is mass rollout of testing. I mean, China's got a huge population, so it can achieve this. It's got loads of people that can be brought in from other regions to help out, mass test people, deliver food to people's houses. So there is confidence that when these outbreaks are detected, they can be very, very swiftly brought under control.
Yes, and I suppose perhaps the public reaction to government instruction might be somewhat different than it is in other countries. Kerry, I want to play a message we received from Isaac, who's in Wuhan. We have spoken to him many times over the past year. He's originally from the States.
Hello, I'm Isaac, and I'm living in Wuhan, China. And I've been here for 2 years now. I haven't been able to leave the country because if I leave, I won't be able to come back to my job here. And it's been an experience to be here for 2 years without going back and seeing my family. I think it's been good in a lot of ways. I've spent a lot of time alone. Most of the other foreigners have left China and they're unable to come back into the country due to various restrictions. And in that time of just being alone a lot, I've definitely had time to reflect on the things that are important to me and where I see my life going in the future. I've done a lot of reading and a lot of reflecting, a lot of thinking about China, Chinese culture, the differences between my country and China. Also been able to spend some good time with friends recently since the lockdown lifted, and that's been really exciting. It's been great to reflect on how the small things in life that you never thought would be taken away from you, like going out to eat or going into public spaces and seeing people around you. It's been good to appreciate those things in a new way after forfeiting them for so long, for not being able to experience them for so long. And right now, things seem to be looking up for a while, but there's been a new outbreak in China, and a lot of the restrictions have reappeared in Wuhan. I had to scan just to go into the park the other day, so everybody's a little bit tense right now, and we're just hoping that another lockdown won't come into effect and that the virus won't come back in force here.
So that scan, I guess, with his phone, there was all the QR codes. I remember Isaac telling us that previously, how technology had been employed to try and eradicate the virus. But, you know, Kerry, are people, or is it being talked about that it's a year since the Wuhan lockdowns? Is there made mention of it on Chinese media?
Oh gosh, absolutely, yes. I mean, Wuhan is thought of as the area that experienced the coronavirus harder than anywhere else. And in fact, a lot of people in China have been very much hoping that there won't be another Wuhan situation where people are forced into lockdown and everything has to be thought up on its feet very, very quickly. But I mean, if we go back to last year and we look at this year, this all happened very close to what China thinks of as the happiest time of the year, Spring Festival or the Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year. And this is when hundreds of millions of people all travel at the same time to go and see their family. And they do a lot of reflecting and look back on the last year and how things have been. So it's a time for reflection. It's a time for celebrating. So yeah, there are a lot of media reports at the moment very much focusing on Wuhan and the success that the city was able to overcome. And everybody's quite sensitive about Wuhan as a whole and doesn't want all the hurt that came out of Wuhan at that time to happen again. But there are a lot of focuses on how the city learnt the hardest and has managed to pass on a lot of its experiences to other regions that have then experienced outbreaks. So one area that's really hard hit at the moment, a city quite near Beijing called Shijiazhuang, there's the expectation that it will be able to bring things under control. People will be able to not experience things as hard as Wuhan did. And a lot of support, I mean, even Hubei officials and local governments within Hubei have sent goods and aid to Shijiazhuang and said, we did this, you can do this too.
Wow, thank you so much, Kerry Allen. And also to Isaac, quite striking that he has remained there as a foreigner when a lot of the buddies he had have left, but he does have his good Chinese friends as well. I know that I've often come on the programme with him as well. Thanks, Kerry.